okay, are used to run applications developed. Let it be any application, let it be SAP, let it be Java, .NET, Python, whatever you call it. So I need some kind of compute for that. Okay. So in the cloud, we generally have a category or called as the whole category called as compute, which is dedicated only for this, because this is the major area. Okay. Now, when I basically try to speak about cloud, okay, cloud is, even though our class is basically around public clouds, there are actually three types of clouds. One is something which is called as public cloud. The other one is something which is called as private cloud. The third one is something which is called as hybrid cloud. There is one more thing which is called as community cloud. I am not speaking about community clouds. They are not that popular. Okay. Right. Fine, sir. So let us basically try to understand only audio, no screen sharing. People on the web, are you able to see my screen, sir? शशि आप एक बार दोबारा रिकनेक्ट हो जाइए सर, सबको तो दिख रहा है. Okay. So the basic idea of cloud, when I define cloud in this class, it is all around public cloud. Okay, right. So let us basically try to understand this. I want to run an application. Okay, I have developed my application. Let us assume in Python language, I have built the whole application. Now I want to run this. Till now, I was developing my application. I was basically running it on my laptop. Now I want to basically host it so that the people can use my application. Probably I might have built some kind of financial calculators, loan calculator, all these calculators I have built. Okay. Now I want people to use my application. So what are the different options of running it? Let us try to speak about historically what used to happen, and after cloud came, what are the different options which we have. Okay. So what is that we have, sir? We have calculators. Okay. So this application was designed in such a way that anyone from using browser can access this application. Okay. This application requires Python, but we can't run Python directly. So for that, we need some kind of an operating system, whether you use a Linux system or a Windows system is your choice. Okay, but operating systems also can't run on their own. So for that reason, we need some kind of server. Okay, all these days we didn't had server. So let us assume that you are working on a Windows system on your laptop. This was your developer environment. అంటే మీరు డెవలప్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఈ అప్లికేషన్ ని మీ లోకల్ విండోస్ ల్యాప్టాప్ లో Python application build చేశారు, దాంట్లో calculator application रन అవుతుంది. ओके, आपने अपने लोकल सिस्टम में कैलकुलेटर का वेब एप्लीकेशन बनाया है जिसको आप लोकली टेस्ट कर रहे थे. अभी आपको क्या चाहिए, इसको आप पब्लिक करना चाहते हैं. ओके, राइट. नाउ फॉर दैट व्हाट यू हैव डन इज, if you want to run this, what are the different ways that are possible? I'll start from non-cloud world to the cloud worlds. Okay, so initially, all right, so let's look at an application. So we have, this is an assumption, sir. We have a Python based web application, okay, which has all calculators for loans, okay, and investments. So all you need to do is log in into my website, create an account, log in into account, and then I'll probably give you some calculators, and then you can calculate whatever you need. This is what I've done. Okay, so as of now, this application is developed locally in a laptop. Okay. So let's see the options available. Okay. So this is my application, sir. Okay. Okay. Right. So there are certain steps which are basically common. Whenever we want to make this application public. Okay. So we have first registered a domain. Okay. So generally, whenever you try to run your websites, you basically go with fancy names, something like Book My Show or like this. I also need a name. So to have this kind of a name, I need to buy a domain. Okay. So to buy a domain, we have different options over here. You can go with something like GoDaddy. You can go with something like Hostinger. Okay. Even AWS gives you an option to buy domains. These are all people who sell domains. Okay. So now over here, let us assume that I go to hostinger.in. I'm searching for a domain. So let us try to. Okay, what was our application? Calculators, right? Let me search. What are the domains which I have? Calculators.com is already taken. Okay. అసలు మనం 100 రూపాయలకి మించి పెట్టే అవకాశమే లేదు. ఓకే. లెట్ us assume that I have purchased calculators. బాగాలేదు కదా. Okay. Personalcalculators.in. I'm not buying this domain. I'm just trying to tell that this is the domain which I have purchased. So whenever my customers type personalcalculators.in, it should come to my application. Okay. So what are the options which I have? Okay. So assume we have purchased a domain which is personalcalculators. Okay. Right. So when we buy a domain, okay, so we get DNS servers hosted by domain seller where we have records. Okay, what do I mean by this? Okay, let us try to understand. So all these days, whenever you are trying to type bookmyshow.com, okay, this page opens. Okay, but the basic networking, right? You take any networking protocol, it doesn't know names. It only knows IP addresses. Did I type IP address or did I type name? Name. Okay. So name I'm typing, it looks like everything is working, but internally a name cannot do anything. Okay. Fine. So I'm coming from top down, sir, because this concept is common across all the platforms. Okay. So now, okay, fine. Ah, right. Fine. So the way DNS works is from your laptop, you have typed personalcalculator.in. What is it you have typed? Personalcalculator.in. So the first server that comes into play is resolving name server. Okay. Right. Resolving name server is some server which can help to basically convert your name into IP address. Okay. Now, what is it you are trying to see here? Top and root name server. Okay. So in the root name server, what we would have is, let us assume that this is a root name server. So in this root name server, what is my domain's name, sir? Now domain parent personal calculators dot in. If I try to write it in reverse order, do you agree that it is in dot personal calculators? This is called as reverse domain name. Okay. So temp.com, reverse of this is com.temp. Okay. Right. So even if you don't understand this part, try to take this is the most relevant part. .in, .com, .net, .org, .blog. So these are called as roots. Now in this server, what they would have is they would have entries like in is the entries of all the in are basically present in this server. In కి సంబంధించిన అన్ని ఎంట్రీలు ఈ సర్వర్ లో ఉన్నాయి. इनके सारे एंट्रीज ये सर्वर में है. ठीक है. So anything which is like test.in, something like quality.in, all the .ins information will be present in this server. Now in this server, what is next domain part of mine? Personal calculators. ఇంత పెద్దది బాగా ఇబ్బందిగా ఉంది కదా. pcalc అని పెడదాం. అంత నేను సావలేను కానీ pcalc.in, this is our domain name. Okay. So now pcalc, the information of this will be present in some other server. Am I clear on this, sir? Yeah. If you have something like test.pcalc.in, there might be some other entries. Okay. Now this is exactly what is being told here. Root name server, top level domain is your personal calculator pcalc, and then this is the actual server where you will have entries. So in this entries, what would happen is you would have records such as a record. What is it? A record. A means name to IP address. DNS सर्वर लो ये रिकॉर्ड అంటే పేరుకి సంబంధించిన IP అడ్రస్ ఏంటి అని. जब भी ये रिकॉर्ड आता है, ए का मतलब ये है नाम का इक्विवेलेंट IP एड्रेस क्या है. Right? There will be one more record which is called as CNAME record. CNAME record is alias record. So what is alias? So for example, if I type fb.com, I am clicking on enter. What is happening? Where is it going to? Facebook.com. So there is nothing called as fb.com that exists, but whenever you type fb.com, I am taking you to facebook.com. These kind of records are called as CNAME records. ప్రస్తుతానికి రెండు తెలితే చాలు మనకి. In DNS, there are other types of records also, but if you know these many things, that is enough. Okay. pcalc is present in this server. This is called as NS record, name server record. Okay. Now this is basically being hosted, or this entries will be hosted by GoDaddy, or I have purchased a domain in Hostinger. So Hostinger will be hosting these servers, or you can try to basically host them in AWS domains. If you purchase a domain from AWS, it will be AWS who will be maintaining this. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay. Now DNS lookup. Okay. Let us try to look into DNS lookup. DNS lookup will try to tell you what are the entries. So for example, if I try to type quality thought .in, and then let me try to click on DNS lookup. Right. So are you saying there is a name record which tries to tell that the quality thought.in is basically hosted on a server which has, is it making sense? Okay. Direct DevOps.blog. This is where you find the notes every day. So here are you finding two name records? The reason why we have two is even if one server goes down, the other server will basically serve your stuffs. Okay. Let me try book my show dot. ఓకే, రోజు మీరు చేసే పని వెనకాల ఇంత జరుగుతుంది. డైలీ వెన్ ఎవర్ యూఆర్ యాక్సెసింగ్ వెబ్సైట్ ఇतना हो रहा है because all the networking protocols go with IP addresses, they don't go with names. So first is this part clear? So for my website now pcalc.in, okay, I need to give an IP address of the server where my application is running. Is this point clear? Okay, yeah. So generally, while we are trying with AWS, Azure, we try to stop at IP addresses because you don't have domains. But once you have domains, all you need to do is map a domain to an IP address. You take anything. You just tell me any website. I think Instagram, Instagram.com, right? Any website has to have this. Okay, right, sir. So is this part clear? We have we have bought a domain and we have a DNS servers where we have this. Now let us try to see hosting options. Okay, so there are two types of hosting options. One is on premises, the second one is cloud solutions. Okay, whatever cloud it might be, I'm not interested. On premises, you are running this in your organization. The second one is you are basically trying to tell that I am going to run it on the cloud. Okay, in cloud we have multiple options. We'll try to discuss about it. Now let us go with on premises model. Okay, so in on premises we have two major options. One is run on physical server or run on virtual machine. Your company might be having servers and they might try to tell you, okay, this is a server, you can run it on that. Or your company might be already using something like VMware where they use virtual machines. So what is a virtual machine? Rather than running the stuff on the physical server, from one physical server, you are trying to create multiple virtual machines so that you can save cost. That's the basic idea of virtual machine. అంటే ఒక ఫిజికల్ సర్వర్ తీసుకుని దాంట్లోనే అప్లికేషన్ రన్ చేసే బదులు ఒక ఫిజికల్ అప్లికేషన్ లో 4-5 వర్చువల్ మెషిన్లు క్రియేట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే, సో सीधा फिजिकल एप्लीकेशन से रन करने से बेहतर बहुत सारे कंपनीज क्या करते हैं, एक फिजिकल सर्वर जो जनरली ये सर्वर्स पूरे डेटा सेंटर्स में होते हैं और इनका साइजेस बड़े होते हैं, तो इसके ऊपर हम लोग VMware की तरह का एक हाइपरवाइजर यूज करते हैं और 4-5 वर्चुअल मशीन बना देते हैं. ओके, राइट. So you have these two options. Okay, right. Now what your organizations will basically try to do is, okay, let us assume that since this is this stuff on physical server, what is that they will try to have? They will try to have VMware ESXi. So VMware ESXi is a software which helps in creating virtual machines. Okay, so they will have many physical servers, but on this what they try to do is they try to create virtual machines. So on one physical server, let us assume that I am trying to run 3 different machines. Okay, so on this machine is where I have in one of this server which is of type Windows, I am trying to run my calculator application. So this application obviously will have some IP address 192.168.10.11. Okay, but this will not be accessible to the outside world. So for this machine, what they give is they give a public IP address, which is like 1.1.1.1. This is, I'm just trying to. Okay, and then in the DNS server, that is in DNS, they will try to add a record which tries to tell that whenever someone types pcalc.in, the IP address is 1.1.1.1. So you go to your website. Okay. So this DNS is, I am trying to write it as hostinger or GoDaddy or AWS domain. In that you are adding this entry. Okay. Now, whenever any of your customer goes to the browser and then type pcalc.in, what is it equivalent to? 1.1.1.1. So your company tries to tell that whenever anyone is typing 1.1.1.1, it will come to this virtual machine. They do some kind of networking for that. Okay. And then your application becomes accessible. Now, did you understand this process? Okay. This is a lengthy process. Yes, it takes physical servers, it takes a lot of administrative stuffs. Now here the challenge is which might come in is, okay, what will I do tomorrow if number of customers are more? Okay, so my calculator is not running on one virtual machine, but rather it is running on 3 virtual machines. In that cases, what will I do? We have these kind of challenges, but I am not even getting into those challenges. But at least this part, do you understand? Okay, right. So this is the virtual machine option. So here the thing which you need to understand is VMware. On premises, most of the application deployments go over something called as VMware. VMware is nothing but a hypervisor. So these are the options which you need to have. So now what is it your company need to manage now? Physical server, virtual machine, public IP address, mapping domain entries. అంతేనా? ఇవన్నీ కరెక్ట్ గా పనిచేస్తే అప్పుడు మీ అప్లికేషన్ పనిచేస్తుంది. This is the option 1. Okay. Now, then we have cloud. So in cloud gives something closer to on-prem. Okay, cloud also gives you something closer to this. What they would try to tell us, okay, let me try to take the story of AWS. Let us assume if it is AWS, I am going to replace this with a service which is called as EC2. What is it, sir? EC2. So you will try to create EC2 machines which are of Windows operating system or Linux operating system, on which you would be running a Python application, and then on which your calculator application is running, and then you go to the domain and then you point out the same thing. Okay, right. So this is what you do in AWS. Okay, if the story has to be told in Azure, okay, so wherever you have used this EC2, in the place of EC2, you will have a Azure virtual machine. Okay, again the story remains same. So you would have DNS server and then you would be matching. Am I clear on this, sir? I'm trying to speak about a single machine. It can be multiple machines also. I'm not speaking about scaling here. Okay. So are we clear on this? If it is Google, this will be replaced with something called as Google Compute Engine. But the story remains same. Every cloud gives you virtual machines. Okay. Virtual machine ఏమైనా కొత్త పదార్థం ఏం కాదు. ఇది this is something which exists in on premises also. But there we use VMware. Here we are using these services. These services are very popular. And once every organization goes to the cloud, this is where they start with. Okay, but eventually they will move away from this, because in this world, what you need to maintain is, let us assume Microsoft gives a new update. So this, you have to update Windows operating system. Python gives a new update. You have to do this. And whenever you are doing this, your application has to be stopped. Ona? So whenever you update your major update comes to your laptop asks restart. Yes or no? So generally, those are the kinds of problems which we have. But here, one advantage which your company will start having is, they don't need to worry about any physical hardware. Once your company goes to this, our problem of physical hardware is gone. We are not dealing with physical hardware. Okay. So, idokkate advantage. If this was the only advantage, cloud would have never been successful. Okay. Right. So, the above mentioned approach falls under the category of infra as a service. Okay, or it is popularly referred as yes. Okay. Advantages in this approach are, first one is closer to on-prem. So just like how you are doing on-prem, you are doing the same thing. Okay. Now, disadvantages of this approach. Okay. No hardware involved. So your company need not worry if the disk is failing. Did the new hardware came up? You are no longer bound to all of those things. ఇక్కడికి వెళ్ళంగానే మన హార్డ్వేర్ వదిలేసాం. Till we are in on premises, we had to worry about hardware. Is it working? Are still need to, okay, perform OS patching and platform patching. When I say platform patching, I'm speaking about, let it be Python or Java or .NET, whatever you are trying to work on. They also give you some kind of updates. You need to manage that. Okay. One advantage of going to the cloud is hardware is not involved, which we got. But what is the other advantage? The other advantage is, you take any cloud. Okay, AWS, let me try to type regions. Okay. Let us assume that I am trying to run this application in India. Okay, I have Mumbai and Hyderabad. I even have Delhi and Kolkata also, right? So I can try to run this application globally. Tomorrow, if I want this calculators to be sent to US, all I have to do is recreate the same thing somewhere in US. So for me, deploying globally becomes easier option. Okay, आप application कहीं से भी बनाओ, पूरे world में almost कहीं भी deploy कर सकते हैं. Okay, because we are basically going with this option of public cloud. In public cloud, what happens is, Amazon has the infrastructure. You don't have any infrastructure. So they are maintaining all the servers, right? So the other advantages, okay? So advantages inherited from public cloud. So what are they? Okay. Global, available. Okay, right. Deploy applications globally. Okay. Here I have to speak about one of the important attribute which is called as latency, sir. So what is it? Latency. Latency basically means that time taken in journey. What is it? Time taken in journey. So what is the journey that is involved? So from your browser, you are typing a domain which is called as pcalci.in. So whenever you type that from your laptop, the request has to come to my server and my server has to generate the response. Okay. Now, during this, there is a journey time. Okay. Right. So let me basically show you this. AWS speed test. Okay. Fine. Whatever it is. Now let us assume that I am running from Hyderabad. Okay. Let me select all the Asia Pacific regions and then try to see what is happening. So if you try to see, this is journey time, sir. Okay. So if I try to run my application in North Virginia, only for time taken for the packet to travel is approximately 297 milliseconds. That is approximately 30% of a second goes only in journey. Okay. మీకు ఒక సెకండ్ లో మూడో వంతు ఓన్లీ ప్రయాణ సమయం పడుతుంది. అక్కడ రెస్పాన్స్ జనరేట్ చేయడానికి ఇంకో 2 నిమిషాలు పట్టింది, 2 సెకండ్లు పట్టింది అనుకోండి. ఇట్ బికమ్స్ 2.3. So 2.3 seconds of stuff will be understood by the user saying that your web page is not that great. Okay. But probably if I try to look into Mumbai, if I try to run it in Hyderabad, what is the time? Because this is the closest region. Yeah. So I have options to run my application closer to my customers. Are you getting my point, sir? ఇది మన కంపెనీలో ఎప్పుడు చేయలేం. Because if I want to do this in my on-prem hardware, that means my company has to invest in data centers around the world, which is probably not a great idea. Do you agree to this? So this is what we get when we go to any cloud. I am not only speaking about Azure. This is the same story whether you are using Azure, AWS or GCP. Okay. So, and then low latency. Are we clear on this, sir? Yes. Okay. Now this is one way. Now the second approach is basically called as platform as a service. Okay. Now if I try to look at my application, what is required to run my application, Windows or Python? నా అప్లికేషన్ రన్ చేయడానికి పైథాన్ కావాలా, విండోస్ కావాలా? What is that my code is depending on? Is it depending on Windows or is it depending on Python? Windows. Seriously? Windows నుండి Python తీసేస్తే పని చేద్దా? So if I have written code in any programming language, the first thing which your stuff depends on is programming language. Yeah, I can conveniently replace that Windows machine with a Linux machine. Do you agree with me on this? Because my code works on Python. Then why should I care about operating system? Why should I care about operating system? Let me start caring only about the environment which I want. Okay. So this is the second idea. In second idea, what cloud providers try to tell us? Okay. In this case, cloud providers, okay, give execution environments according to technology or platform. Okay. So let me try to quickly show you how it looks like. Anyway, where we are, I said that I am not worried about which stuff which we want, but let me try to show this quickly. So in Azure, we have something called as app service. When I am creating an app service, it tries to that what is the kind of application which you are trying to build. Okay. Yeah. And then over here, let me try to tell that my application is personal calculator. Okay. pcalc dev. Okay, right. Then what is it trying to tell? What is your stack? ఇక్కడ ఏమున్నాయి? If you are trying to see over here, is it speaking about operating systems or is it speaking about languages? Here I said that my application is Python. I created, done. Now, in this, the advantage which I will get is there is no need for me to manage operating system also. When Linux gives some update, when Windows gives some update, that is cloud providers problem. నా problem కాదు. लिनक्स अपडेट इच्छना विंडोज अपडेट इच्छना అది నా సమస్య కాదు. जब भी कोई विंडोज का अपडेट आता है या लिनक्स का अपडेट आता है, मुझे कुछ झेलना है नहीं. Okay, because I am basically trying to deploy code directly. Deploy code directly. So these kind of things are something which we call as platform as a service, and all the cloud providers also have this. So in this case, what I'll tell is, okay, I am not worried about it. I go to this. Okay, so what I need is Python. So AWS gives me an option. Which is called as Elastic Beanstalk. So Elastic Beanstalk is an option where you get this stuff. In the case of Azure, you get something called as app service. So in this case, what is it you are stopped caring about? You are stopped caring about operating systems. When you stop caring about operating systems, you are no longer responsible for updates, security updates, ransomware updates. That is all cloud providers headache. The only thing which you are responsible for is what you are developing. Okay, so you write an effective code, ask cloud, and then inheritedly we get an option saying that you can run this anywhere across the world, whatever you find comfortable. So this is the second option, and even here also we try to basically can map the domain to this calculators. Are we clear on this, sir? Yeah. Okay, good. So when we go to platform as a service, what is that we are dealing with, sir? What is it we are dealing with? We are directly dealing with platforms. We are not dealing with operating systems. Okay, the story doesn't stop here. Okay, so what they try to tell us, I have something called as serverless. What is this idea of serverless? Let us assume that I have calculator application, sir. Okay, I am running this on some server. Okay, my customers, I am not having too many customers. Let us go with that assumption. Okay, but I don't know when my customer will call my website. Should my server be running all the time, or is it okay that whenever I want I can start the server? మీ వెబ్సైట్ కి పెద్దగా విజిటర్స్ ఏం లేరు. వెబ్సైట్ ఎప్పుడు రన్ అవుతూనే ఉండాలా? రోజుకి కొంచెం సేపు నడితే సరిపోతుందా? आपका वेबसाइट को ज्यादा विजिटर्स नहीं है. ओके, नया नया वेबसाइट है, तो आपके सर्वर को हमेशा चलना होता है या कभी कभी चले तो ठीक है? Whether you have customers or don't have customers, once you said it is a website, it has to be running all the time. Yes or no? So when you say that you are running it all the time, you are paying all the time. Yes. So now basically they have something called as serverless stacks. So in the serverless stack, the way it works out is, okay, in AWS they have something called as Lambda. In the AWS they have something called as Lambda. In Azure they have something called as functions. In this case, what happens is you try to run your code in this functions. Only when your code is getting executed, then you will be charged. మీ కోడ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతున్నంత సేపు మాత్రమే మీకు బిల్లు పడుతుంది. కోడ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వకపోతే బిల్ లేదు. సో ఓన్లీ వెన్ యువర్ కోడ్ ఈస్ ఎగ్జిక్యూటింగ్ దెన్ you will be charged. So but when we basically try to go into this models, we will try to basically break down our applications into functionalities. I'll try to speak about it, but this is the next way of running applications. Okay, so in this case, what is the difference? Here also you get platform, here also you get Python, here also you get .NET, but the difference is there the server was always running, but now here server is not always running. You will be charged only when your application is getting executed. మీ అప్లికేషన్ ఎంతసేపు అయితే ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుందో అన్ని సెకండ్లకు మాత్రమే, లేదంటే అన్ని మిల్లీ సెకండ్లకు మాత్రమే మీకు బిల్లు పడుతుంది. ओके, सो दिस इज समथिंग विच इज कॉल्ड एज सर्वरलेस. इन ये मोड में ये होता है कि जब तक आपका कोड एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है, थोड़े क्लाउड्स में सेकंड का बिलिंग होता है, थोड़े क्लाउड्स में मिली सेकंड का बिलिंग होता है, राइट? उस हिसाब से ही आपका चार्ज होगा. आपने एक वेबसाइट रन किया, पूरे महीने आपको कस्टमर कोई नहीं हिट किया, तो आपका बिल 0 हो गया. Okay, so you have run some kind of web functionality and no one has hit your endpoint, then your cost becomes 0. So this is a new way of thinking about applications, and this is something which is called as serverless. Okay, right? So what we would be doing is we would start, okay, with AWS and Azure, exploring all of these options. Okay, in this case, what you need not do is you need not write any code. Okay, I'll try to give you the sample code. What you should be doing is, okay, you should be basically deploying the applications in the way which I have spoken about. Okay, so serverless embraces, okay, cost when the code is execute. There are many companies who have used these model, and for all the people who are going to learn Python from us, we are going to build an application around serverless. Okay, so whenever you hit an API, it will call serverless, it will execute for some time, generate your response, done. Okay, so generally there are some interesting areas in this. So for example, AWS tries to tell that when you are trying to run in Lambda, if your code is running more than 15 minutes, I will kill it. 15 నిమిషాల కన్నా ఎక్కువ మీ కోడ్ నడుతుంటే నేనే చంపేస్తాను అన్నట్టు. Okay, so these are some kind of interesting areas of basically trying to run your application. So are we clear on this, sir? Does this area looks interesting? Yes. Okay, so I was not focusing on these areas too much prior. Now I am doing it. The reason for that is I want you to apply for, as we have included Python in our curriculum, I wanted you to apply whenever there are openings on Lambda, others serverless technologies as well as other technologies. Okay, but as I'm trying to tell that while you are doing these activities, I don't expect you to code anything. I will give you code, you are supposed to deploy. ఇది చేయగలం కదా అందరూ, నేను మిమ్మల్ని కోడ్ ఏం రాయమంటలా. मैं किसी को कोड लिखने के लिए नहीं बोल रहा हूं. आपको आता है लिख दो, अच्छी बात है. अगर आपको नहीं भी आता है, so we are speaking about deploying applications. Okay, so when we learn Python, we will speak about how to build these applications. Okay, so that's the basic idea around it. Clear on this, sir? So now if you try to look into it, whenever you develop an application, okay, in public cloud, whenever I'm speaking about AWS, Azure, GCP, I'm speaking about public clouds. I have not spoken about the other two clouds. What is the private cloud and what is hybrid cloud? That we will discuss in our next sessions. But what is an approach? You develop an application, you buy a domain. In the domain, you will try to map some IP address or some canonical name, CNAME record, to wherever your server is running, deploy your application. And to deploy your application, you have multiple options. So if I want to summarize those options, okay, right, I have not spoken about one option, okay, but I'll include that in this image. So first is on-prem. See, in on-prem you have options which is like physical server, virtual machines. So over here you have infra as a service, platform as a service, serverless, and then containers. You can try to run containers over here, but they will fall under the category of physical and virtual machine again. That's the reason I'm not trying to write them separately. So over here in containers, you basically get, okay, two options. One is try to run in something like container as a service, or try to run them in Kubernetes as a, so this is basically in cloud or public cloud. When I say public cloud, you can replace that public cloud with AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle Cloud, IBM Cloud, you name the clouds, Ali Cloud. Yeah, right. Kaakapothe service పేర్లు మారుతాయి. The name of the services might be different. So in the case of infra as a services, AWS has something called as EC2, Azure has something called as virtual machines, GCP has something called as compute engine. If you go with platform as a service, AWS has something called as Elastic Beanstalk, Azure has something which is called as app service. You go with serverless, Azure has functions, AWS has Lambda. You go with container as a service, AWS has ECS, Azure has Azure container instances. Okay, Kubernetes, Azure has AKS, Azure Kubernetes services, AWS has EKS, Elastic Kubernetes service. Okay, so all of these things are exactly same. They are not different. Okay, that's the reason we are learning in both the languages. So our idea is, how can I take, okay, I'm not speaking about virtual machines over here. So my focus will be, there is some code that your developers have developed. How will you try to run that in platform as a service and in serverless? And for doing this activity, I don't expect you to understand anything about code. We are speaking about deployments and its options. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay, right. And for the people who have learned Python, you can also apply for PaaS developers, platform as a service developers. Okay, all you have to do is, for the people who learned Python, you need to learn how to build APIs. That was the exact activity which I have shared with you. Okay, in this some APIs were not working and some APIs are working. This is for the people who have learned Python. Okay, for the people who have not learned Python, you will be learning when your time comes. Okay, so even నేర్చుకుంటే minimum ₹1,00,000 తేడా ఉంటుంది సార్ జీతంలో. Okay, right, fine then. Are we clear on this, sir? What is one advantage of cloud? One advantage of cloud is you can be closer to your customers without having any physical hardware around there. Okay, so whatever application which you have built, if you want to deploy into Europe, US, Asia, Australia, anywhere, right? So that means that once you know how to build your applications, you can deploy them everywhere, and then all you will be getting is, you will be getting only monthly bills. Clear on this, sir? Yeah. Now let me show you some technical or textbook kind of stuff. Okay, okay, SaaS basically means you are not writing software, you are buying software. Okay, so let us not worry about SaaS at this moment. Let us worry about all the three. If it is on-prem, okay, on-premise means your company is managing their own hardware. Physical networking, who has to do it? Your company. Right? Storage, who has to do it? Your company. Networking, servers, virtualization, buying VMware, managing operating systems. Middleware could be something like servers, or something like Tomcat, something like Apache, Nginx, right? So runtime is something like Python, .NET, and all that stuff. And then whatever code that you are trying to run, applications, whatever data which it is generating, all of these things have to be managed by. You go with infra as a service, that is EC2 or virtual machines. There is no need for you to worry about physical networking, that is cloud problem. Physical storage, these all are physical layers. Okay, which virtualization should I use? That is not your problem. You start worrying from operating system. You go to platform as a service. You said that my application is developed in Java, you select Java. My application is developed in Python, you select Python. So you are managing only అప్లికేషన్స్ అండ్ డేటా. మరి ఇదేంటి, ఇది అసలు మీరు అప్లికేషన్ రాయటం మానేసి కొనుక్కున్నారు. ఓకే, ఇది ఇంట్లో వంట మానేసి స్విగ్గీ ఆర్డర్ చేసుకున్నట్టు. సో దాన్ని కూడా మనం మాట్లాడొచ్చు. ओके, तो चौथा ऑप्शन जो है आपको कुछ पकाना नहीं है, आपने स्विगी में ऑर्डर कर दिया, right? So because that is readily available, there was no point in developing the application because it is readily available. So that is a last option. Okay, but our focus will be majorly around this and serverless. Okay, but I'll start by doing that in traditional stuff also because we need to understand the pain points. Okay, but this stuff I'll not be doing because neither I have physical servers nor I have virtualization platform, neither am I interested in that. So our focus will be on these two plus serverless. Clear on this? Yeah. So right. So this is a very old image of Microsoft where Microsoft Azure was called as Windows Azure, but this image is still relevant. Okay, fine, sir. So tomorrow I'll be trying to send an extra link. Okay, so that extra link will be around how to set up your system. Okay, so that will be at 10 o'clock. So there we will try to learn what are the softwares that needs to be installed in your system, how to create cloud accounts, and this kind of stuff. Okay, so for today I'm not doing it because last time when I did it on Tuesday, since link was not sent upfront, many people didn't join. So I don't want that to happen. So tomorrow you will get a link at 10 o'clock for system setup and cloud account creations. Okay, right, fine, sir. Okay, now this is our focus will be around applications for this 2 weeks. Okay, so then we'll be speaking about infrastructure as a code, but when it comes I'll try to speak about infrastructure as a code. So are we clear on this, sir? Yes, today I don't want to go with too much of information. Did we understood what we are trying to tell? క్లౌడ్ కి వెళ్తాం వల్ల మనకు వచ్చే ఫస్ట్ అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఏంటి, ప్రపంచంలో చాలా చోట్ల వాళ్ళ సర్వర్లు ఏడిసినాయి. సో మన కస్టమర్లు ఎక్కడ ఉంటే అక్కడ అప్లికేషన్ రన్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, అది కూడా మీకు నచ్చిన చోట కూర్చొని. సో సిన్స్ कोई भी क्लाउड आप सेलेक्ट कर लो, वो they are present at many locations, so you can be anywhere and deploy applications completely closer to your customers. That's the first advantage. That advantage is for every service in AWS, every service in Azure, right? So the second one is we want to reduce the manual works or reduce the operational activities. So virtual machines sound like a good idea, but eventually if you want to cut down on costs, I would rather don't want to maintain operating systems because patching operating systems is a decent amount of work which I can eliminate once I go with layers which are on top of it. Okay, so that is the reason we are trying to look out for platform as a service. And then serverless is basically becoming very popular because of two architectures. One is something called as nano services, the second one is event driven applications. Okay, so event driven applications is not all parts of your code will be running all the time, they will be running based on some event that is triggered. So then why should I be paying for the services all the time, right? That is where serverless has basically started in. We will try to discuss the things. Okay, so are we clear on the topics which you have discussed? Okay, application run cheyalante manaki enni మార్గాలు ఉన్నాయి మొత్తానికి క్లౌడ్ లో? ఎన్ని? 3. एक एप्लीकेशन को क्लाउड में चलाने के लिए हमारे पास 3 तरीके है जो मैंने डिस्कस किया था, लेकिन इमेज में चौथा भी डाल दिया था. Okay, the fourth one is containers. So I am not including containers in this discussion. So one is directly on infra as a service. Take a virtual machine and then install your application or deploy your application. The second one is platform as a service. The third one is serverless. Not every application fits serverless. Okay, serverless లో అన్ని అప్లికేషన్లు కుదరవు. ఏం కుదురుతాయి ఏం కుదరవు అన్నది మనం అది నేర్చుకున్నప్పుడు నేర్చుకుంటాం. ఓకే, బట్ serverless is a very interesting model. It is a very interesting model and there are many use cases around it. There are administrative use cases and application use cases. We'll be trying those things. Clear on this, sir? Yes? Wonderful. Okay then. So, 1 minute. Let me upload the notes. As we have discussed in DevOps class, uh, we will not, generally 13th is holiday. Every Monday we don't work. Okay, we work on all the other weekdays. But since there is an election, we are not working on 14th also because many people are going to their natives. Okay. So 14 మన క్లాసులు ఉండవు జనరల్ గా మండే హాలిడే ఈజ్ ఆర్ మండే ట్యూస్డే కూడా హాలిడే ఓకే బట్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ సెషన్స్ టిల్ సండే బట్ సండే ఇన్ ద సెకండ్ హాఫ్ విల్ నాట్ బి హ్యావింగ్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ ఆల్ ద సెషన్స్ ఇన్ ద ఫస్ట్ హాఫ్ ఇట్స్ రైట్ ఓకే గోపి వాళ్ళ సెక్షన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు